Let's take a look at amortizing bond discount or premium on bonds payable using the effective interest rate method. Interest rates go up, bond prices go down. We have to put our bonds on sale in order to sell them. And that difference between the face amount and the sale price is a discount. If interest rates go down, bond prices go up, and the difference is a premium. We have to amortize that discount or that premium over the life of the bonds. So let's say LL Inc. is going to issue some 20-year bonds. They printed the bonds up. It's got 5%. That's the coupon rate printed in the corner of each bond. So that means they promised to pay $1 million worth of principal at the end of 20 years, and in the meantime, make semi-annual payments of $25,000. 5% of $1 million is $50,000, and since bonds pay interest every 6 months, that means that they're going to make semi-annual payments of $25,000. So if 5% is the right rate, the market rate, for LL Inc.'s credit for 20-year bonds, we should sell those at face value. Let's find the price of those bonds. Let's find the present value of the future cash flows. So we'll hit second, FV to clear the third row. 40 is the end because these are 20-year bonds and bonds pay interest twice a year. Let's say that 5% is the market rate, so we'll use 2.5 as the interest rate. If it's 5% per year, it's 2.5% every half a year. The payment we decided was $25,000 every 6 months, and LL Inc. agrees to pay $1 million principal back at the end. Then we'll hit compute PV and discover that sure enough, that's the right price for this bond. If the contract rate and the market rate are the same, we sell the bond at face value. And the journal entries are pretty straightforward. Debit cash for $1 million, credit bonds payable for $1 million. Every 6 months, let's pretend like we haven't accrued for interest expense yet. Debit interest expense for $25,000, credit cash. Debit interest expense for $25,000, credit cash. And that's all there is to it, to issuing bonds at par. But what happens if interest rates go up? Let's pretend interest rates go up 100 basis points. So they print the bonds up on Sunday night at 5%, and Monday morning interest rates have jumped to 6%. Well, no one's going to buy our 5% bonds when they can buy 6% bonds from our competitors. So we have to put our bonds on sale. We have to sell them at a discount. We have to sell them at a price that will yield a 6% return to our buyers. So let's find the present value of those future cash flows of that bond at a 6% discount rate. Well, we already know that all the right numbers are here in the third row. Let's just tweak the interest rate. Instead of 2.5% per 6 months, let's say it's 3% every 6 months. In other words, 6% a year. So we find the present value, compute PV, and we're going to have to sell those bonds for $884,426. We're still going to owe that $1 million 20 years from now, but we only borrowed $884,426. How do we make that journal entry balance? With an entry called discount on bonds payable. And what we'll do with that $115,574 is we'll effectively turn it into interest expense over the life of the bond. It has a debit balance, expense or debits, expense or debits, expense or debits. So it'll be pretty simple to turn that into interest expense. The simplest way is the straight line method. We take that 115,574, divide it by 40, because if it's a 20-year bond, we're going to make 40 payments of interest. And every 6 months, we're going to credit discount on bonds payable for that 2,889, and so at the end of 20 years, there's going to be a zero balance. So how do we make this journal entry balance? We've got our cash payment. That doesn't change. Our contract payment is to pay 5% on $1 million every 6 months, but our interest expense on our books is going to be a little bit higher. Our interest expense on our books is going to be 2,789, and that's a nice straightforward way to do it. But the gap says if there's a material difference between the straight line method and the effective interest rate method, we have to use the effective interest rate method. The effective interest rate method respects the time value of money and books a smaller discount on bonds payable amortization at the beginning and a bigger amortization at the end. So it says take the carrying value of the bonds, multiply it times the effective rate, and subtract the contract rate times the face value of the bonds, which sounds really complicated, but it's not. First of all, we know that the cash payment is going to stay the same. That's $25,000. The interest expense is simply going to be the effective rate times the carrying value of the bond. For the first payment, that's pretty easy because we know the carrying value of the bonds. It's the face amount of the bonds minus the discount on bonds, which for the first payment is the amount of cash we got. So the market rate, the effective rate on these bonds is 6% per year or 3% every 6 months. So 0.03 times 884,426 means that our interest expense is going to be 26533. Is that journal entry balanced? No, we need to book the amortization of the discount on bonds. That's 1533. So if you think about it, we're respecting the book's formula. Interest expense is the effective rate times the carrying value of the bonds. The cash payment is the contract rate times the face value. So the amortization is the effective rate times the carrying value minus the contract rate times the face value gives us the amount of the amortization. The second payment is just a tiny bit more complicated. The carrying value of the bonds is now that $1 million minus the balance on discount on bonds payable, which went from 115,574 minus the 1533 we amortized the first time, means that our balance in that discount on bonds payable is 114,041, which means the carrying value of the bonds is 885,959. Multiply that by 3% and we get interest expense of 26579. We know that our contract rate times our face amount means we're going to cut a check for $25,000. So now we're going to amortize that bond discount for 1579. What's happening to interest expense is it's getting higher every 6 months because the amortization of that discount on bonds payable is getting higher every month. So we need a little bit bigger debit to balance that journal entry.